So, Casper, I met I've actually never met you, and you've never
No, I
met
think we
me.
have. I think we have met.
Oh, you came in to get your computer.
Yeah, no, yeah. Briefly.
Briefly, right. Okay, so when I first met your dad, um, anytime I see anything that has anything related to fishing, I always talk to that person. So your dad
That's
was like,
cool.
yeah. So your dad was like, oh, my son loves fishing and da da da. And I think that when you picked up your laptop, we started going through galleries of pictures, and
Yep, that
talking.
sounds about right.
Yeah. So, and then through the last year, 2 or 3, um, your dad sends me pictures out of the blue of you fishing. It's hilarious. And then of course I have to one up him and send pictures of me.
I mean, I do the same thing.
So I kept saying to your dad, I've got to, you're in my backyard, and I never started fishing until 20 years ago when I met my husband, and I'm from north of Chicago and knew
Mhm.
nothing about fishing. Not, so, and
Yeah.
he got me, and I'm very competitive. So, if he caught a fish, I wanted to catch another one, but I wanted to catch one bigger.
Yeah.
And then I started watching all the fishing shows, and although I'm not like a total equipment and lure geek,
Mhm.
I just love fishing. And now we've gotten into fly fishing and saltwater fishing, and that's how I got started. But Casper, tell me who you are, how old you are, whatever, and how did you start fishing from the beginning?
Yeah, so I'm 16 now. I turned 16 in December. Um, I guess I mean, my dad was like a smallmouth fisherman, like growing up smallmouth and trout. And he used to take us, like when we were really little, probably when I was like 8, 9, 10. He would take us to like these little like mall ponds that are like out, or not mall ponds, but like hotel ponds, like where you're not really supposed to fish out, but they're like, tons of stunted bluegills and stuff. And he would take us, he would set us up with a little like ugly stick and a little bobber and just like some worms on a circle hook, and we would basically just like sit out there for like hours just pulling up bluegills. And that's probably like my earliest memory ever, was pulling up little tiny baby bluegills out of a pond outside of like a mall. And yeah, I guess it's stuck with me ever since then.
That's because when you go by the airport, by Dulles Airport, that pond behind the.
I know exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
every time my husband and I go past it, we're like, "You think there's fish in there?" Every time.
That's exactly what me and my dad talk about.
It's
I
so.
think he snuck in there one time, in a hurry, and he didn't quite hit it hard enough. And he claims that he didn't catch anything, but I'm fairly confident. I mean, there's got to be fish in there, right? It's pretty big.
I'm surprised you haven't been there.
Not yet. Once I get my driver's license, nothing's safe.
You're right. All right. So, would it be your dad who taught you and was your mentor, or do you have somebody else?
So my dad certainly got me into it, and he sort of like introduced me to everything. But I tell people that I'm more like self-taught and self-experienced, because he's like your typical like smallmouth fisherman. He used to just chuck tubes around and all sorts of stuff. He's a great fisherman, but I think once he sort of got me into it, I just learned on my own. I learned through reading articles and books and videos, and then obviously most importantly is personal experience and just encounters. And I guess just over the years, it's just racked on and racked on and racked on, and here we are.
Yeah, and he's pretty cool because like you guys go on vacation, and he tells me, "Oh, you guys are going someplace," and even you have like an event for school, and the next thing you know, he's sending me pictures of like
Well, you
fish that you
always
caught.
have to take the opportunity, right? Like, how could you go down to Miami and not fish for peacock bass? It's like a sin.
That's true. And do you figure out that the peacock bass were there, or does he?
Yep, that was almost completely me. I mean, so we first went down to Florida, I think 4 years ago, or South Florida 4 years ago. And the first couple days we were like really, and this is probably when I was like 12 or something. First couple days, we were really struggling with the peacocks. I mean, we hadn't gotten any, we were on like our last day and we were like, all right, we see fish everywhere. But we're not getting them on artificials. So we went to some random tackle shop. We bought a bunch of shiners, and then we first caught our 2 fish. And then sort of after we ran out of shiners, I decided to sort of completely change up tactics and stop throwing around these big jerkbaits and stuff. And I switched to like little micro baits because I saw these like mosquito fish and cichlids and stuff swim around. So I was like, I mean, match the hatch, right? So I tied on these little tiny baby jigs, and it was like a eureka moment. And you know, we just started tearing them up the very last day. And I guess ever since then, we've just gone back and done the same exact thing, and we kind of smoke them every time.
You don't sound like you're 16.
You know, I get that a lot. I'll be out fishing and people will come up to me and they'll like talk to me and stuff, and they'll think that I'm like in my 20s or like in my college or like in college. Like I've had guys ask me if I'm like fishing competitively in college and stuff, and I'll tell them that I'm in high school, and they will not believe me.
That's hysterical. So I know you're only 16, so you're what, a sophomore or a junior?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore. Yeah.
Yeah. So and obviously you'd have to go bass fishing if you were in college doing that, but is there any thoughts of taking the fishing further?
Absolutely. Hopefully, whichever college, whichever university I go to, I would like to enter the collegiate leagues in some of those tournaments for largemouth and smallmouth. That would be ideal. When I was little, I used to want to do MLF, but it's sort of become more far-fetched for me since I don't have a bass fishing program at my school, and really you've got to start younger for that. But collegiately, definitely, I would love to. Also, I'm really sort of starting to take up this whole social media platform. I've been, thinking about it for a long time, like 2 years maybe, since I was a little kid. And I have a couple of buddies who are pretty big on social media, and they sort of gave me that sort of last kick and that sort of last straw. And I'm kind of flipping the trigger on it now. I'm doing tons of like in class, like I don't pay attention in class. I just think about fishing. I think about editing. I'm researching ideas. Like I have a whole idea list of stuff I want to put out there on the internet. And hopefully in college, I'm going to major in fisheries and fisheries biology. And then I'm planning on minoring in videography. And hopefully that combo will result in some more social media down the road as a side hobby, or if everything goes perfectly, a full career.
But I mean, you've got, so you know what you're doing. That's amazing. And I'll take out that part about you not paying attention in class, so your dad doesn't hear that. I'm just kidding.
Just to keep going.
So I know for collegiate you would have to do bass and largemouth and smallmouth. But is there a particular species that you really focus on? Is it the bass?
Around here, yeah, I'm a big largemouth guy and a big northern snakehead guy. I'm starting to sort of get into the smallmouth more and more, but it's they're longer trips up to the Rap and up to the higher up in the Potomac, up in some of those smaller creeks and tributaries. But I think especially during the summer and when I get my driver's license, that whole sort of time blockage is going to be totally erased, because I want to have full access, full time wherever I want to go. So yeah, I do a lot of largemouth fishing, like a lot of largemouth fishing. I do a lot of snakehead fishing. I do a lot of multi-species stuff. Like I love catching pickerel. I love catching perch, crappies. I like to fish for big blue cats and stuff on artificials. I don't fish for them using live bait, but mostly besides like most live species stuff, it's definitely mostly largemouth and snakehead that I'm especially attuned to.
Yeah. Do you have do you have a list of how many different species you've caught? I mean, if I went through my text with you and your dad and me, I probably have at least a dozen, if not more.
Yeah, I've probably caught like 30, maybe 35 species of fish so far on rod and reel because I've caught almost everything in our immediate area. And then I've caught lots of fish in Florida. I've caught some interesting fish in California off of piers, like sardines and some unidentified, little seaweed fish and stuff like that I don't really know much about, but I've caught a lot of species. Yeah.
All right. So, do your friends think you're crazy?
So I get that a lot. My friends will be like out doing something on the weekend or after school or like at a party or something, and they'll text me. They'll be like, "Kasper, we invite you to come to this place, and we want you to come to do whatever the event is." And I always give them the same answer. I'm busy. I'm busy. Sort of. It's like working really. I'm fishing. I'm out in the water, and it right now as a 16-year-old. Fishing is definitely my number one priority and commitment. I do, over school, I take priority in fishing over school, over friends, over, I'm a competitive water polo player on a relatively high level. I take priority fishing over that. Really, fishing is like really all I truly care about. If I can't fish, then I really don't see the point in doing anything else.
That's amazing. Do you fly fish or is it all conventional fishing?
I do mostly conventional fishing. I'm hopefully I have fly rods, and my dad used to be a big fly fisherman, especially for trout. I'm gonna get into fly fishing hopefully this summer. I have, fly rods, fly reels. I've got lots of tippets and, flies. I used to make flies when I was younger, just out of boredom. But mostly conventional bait casters and spinning rods.
All right. So I know, again, your dad sends me all your fish, but he also sends me all your really big fish. And you have some that are like bigger than other people's. Tell me all about tell me about those.
So I have, I think, 7 DC records actually. I have the adult carp, the youth snakehead. I have the adult largemouth, but my buddy Devon broke it. I have the youth largemouth. I have the youth crappie, and I think I have like one more. I kind of forget. But my biggest fish to date so far, I think, is a 37-pound common carp I caught just this winter break. Second to that, I've caught a lot of other big carp. I've caught some pretty nice sized blue cats. I've caught some decent, not huge reds, but decent reds. But that really just comes to like the hours sort of I spend in the water. Like I caught a lot of my DC records out of the tidal basin, and you see guys fishing the tidal basin all the time, absolutely pounding it. But I think sort of what puts me over the edge is I have days where I get skunked, and it's bound to happen no matter how good you are. There's going to be days like that. But I've probably in scenarios like that and in places like that, I've definitely spent over 100, 170 hours probably doing the same thing over and over again in those little tiny bodies of water like the tidal basin. And sort of I get to know the back of my hand, and I know what time of year is good for what. I know where, under what water clarity, under what conditions, under what tide, under what temperature. I sort of know get to know the place really, really well, and then I sort of, after that is when I really start, racking up all these fish and sort of out-competing some of these other guys.
Yeah, well, I was watching your YouTube video and you were using a boat. You were talking about, what to use, when to use it, and how you use it. You're using a bone-colored Thunderhawk crankbait.
Yeah, that was the Thunderhawk 810. I really like those because they don't have a separate bill from the body, and I really love to fish them over like heavy rocks and heavy, hard, jagged structure. And every now and again you get that one rock that seems a little too much like a largemouth, and you slam the hook, and a lot of those crankbaits, they just snap in two, especially when you give them that Hollywood hook set. And I really like the sort of full cast crankbaits because they definitely give you a couple more chances not to break your bait when you're fishing over some of those rocks.
Okay, so I watched to the end, and I noticed you gave what kind of rod and reel you were using, and Megabass rods and Daiwa reels. I wasn't allowed to have those in my hand until I caught at least 100 bass. No, right. So I was using Skeet Reese yellow rods and probably 20-year-old Corrado Shimano reels at that point. Yeah. But where do you get your stuff?
So my dad doesn't necessarily approve of my investments, but I make all the money myself, doing chores and jobs. I get them from other people, doing jobs for other people. In the summertime, I work for people. I do stuff for neighbors. So I make all the money myself, and then I don't spend it on anything else except for fishing because, in my mind, I don't really need anything else. That combo you saw there, that was a Megabass, a Ricci. That's shipped all the way from Japan, and the Daiwa Zillion is also a Japanese reel, I believe, but I got it from the U.S., and, my dad doesn't necessarily approve of those expensive combos, but sort of when you're at a level where things, tiny little details really start to make a difference, some of those higher end, more professional combos really do set you over the edge. Like that specific combo, I think ran me like, gosh, my dad's probably not going to like this because he doesn't know, but I think that combo costed me like $820.
Yeah, you're probably right there. And I will tell you, once Pete actually gave me a combo like that, I was like, oh my God, no wonder it was so hard to fish before. I was fishing with garbage.
Yeah,
it makes a difference.
Technology is amazing. Like that specific combo weighs like as light as a feather. I cast, I do everything in one hand. I can skip baits better. I can bomb lighter jerk baits and smaller bass jigs farther. If you're sort of like really beginning to fishing or you're intermediate in fishing, some of those combos, don't waste your money on them because it's fine. A little Bass X is going to be totally fine for you. But sort of when you've been doing it for so long, and I've had so many different combos and reels and rods in my hands from my own and from people that I know, those quality combos, they really are a game changer.
Right, you're not putting them back in your garage, and they're not going to end up with dust on them. You're actually using them. Not. Yeah. So my next question for you is, what are your next steps in your fishing progression? Like I know you're still in high school. I know you're but where do you see yourself in the next couple years? Are you can you get onto a bass club here, or that's just not?
Well, my main focus right now is sort of trying to make it in social media. I have one sort of rush YouTube video out there that I really didn't spend that much time on, but I just kind of wanted to get a feel for everything, and I uploaded it. But I'm starting to put a lot of work and effort into making some really what I think in my mind, I guess, I don't know what other people think, but I'm putting a lot of effort into making high quality content, and I'm getting lots of equipment, microphones, cameras, batteries, and I'm brainstorming ideas. So right now, my main focus is to try and make myself a social media name, and then maybe down the line I can hopefully work with some companies, and also I think as soon as I get my driver's license, bass clubs and stuff like that is going to become a much more easy thing for me to grasp, because I know a lot of old heads that are really invested in a lot of those clubs, and they know me well. And I think if I were to say, hey, I want a part of this, I want to take me out a couple times, I don't think they'd be opposed to it whatsoever. And it really just like my time is sort of all wrapping around school and whether or not my dad has enough time to drop me off and pick me up from somewhere. So in the summertime, once I get my license, it's going to be a big game changer. I'm going to be hitting pretty much every body of water on the East Coast. I'll be driving the distance. I'll be waking up at 5 a.m., going somewhere, hitting it for 3 hours, and driving another 5 hours back home. And then my plan for college is I would like to go to college out on the West Coast, like Idaho or Montana, or somewhere far out there, where there's not a lot of people and there's a lot of fish. I'm looking sort of at the University of Idaho right now, the University of Wyoming. My grades are really, really good, but I think some of those government-run fishery programs are going to be the best bet for me. So I think I have a pretty good chance of going into some of those schools and sort of getting to know the area, getting accustomed. I really, really, believe it or not, hate the hot weather. I want to move out into some of those more northern and western fish species. I want to really get into the trout. I'd like to get into some salmon, some kokanee. I'd love to get into the sturgeon and sort of take everything I know from all these sort of warmer weather species we have here, like northern snakeheads, and sort of bring it down and tweak it over to the West Coast, and hopefully stay out there after college and completely transition over there.
It's amazing. So, all right. So we know what we have here in the States and all that, but do you have any dreams of fishing or species way out there that, when and if? Tell me about those.
So I think one of my dream species was actually peacock bass when I was younger, and that I got way too fast. So now my number one, and I think the most graspable, is going to be climbing the Sierra Nevada mountains and fishing for some indigenous golden trout. I think that would be really awesome. My dad tried doing the climb when he was younger, but unfortunately he got elevation sickness, and he was never able to sort of grasp some of those fish. And I mean, golden trout, true golden trout, not a palomino trout, but golden trout are absolutely beautiful. They're sort of becoming less and less available to us because their populations are in decline through invasive species like brown trout and rainbow trout. So I'd like to get some of those last true indigenous ones before they start overstocking all these waterways with I mean, they're golden trout, stock trout or golden trout, but they're not. It's not the same to get a stalker versus a true indigenous fish. Second, I would love to go to the Arctic Circle and catch just a monster Arctic char. I mean, even people that don't know fishing or don't care about fish, they see a picture of an Arctic char and they're like, "Wow, that is a beautiful fish."
You know what you have to do once you catch one, right?
What is that?
You got to jump in the cold water.
Oh, well, I mean, how could you not?
That's right.
I mean, they absolutely just Arctic char are probably, in my opinion, the most beautiful fish that we have, like, period. I mean, especially, like, when they're spawning out, the freaking oranges on their stomach is so fluorescent, like hunter orange. They have white highlights on all their fins. You get that sort of bluish green stripe around their gill plate down their lateral line. They're like, it's really a show fish, and not only do they have beautiful colors, but you've got that big signature hook jaw that just, I mean, completes the whole image always. Absolutely an amazing fish. And then number 3, I would like to go out to maybe Russia or Mongolia and chase some giant taimen. If you don't know what a taimen is, do you know what a taimen is?
I do, and that's one of the things I'd like to catch as well.
Yeah. I think those are some of the most amazing salmonoids that we have. I mean, historically speaking, they can exceed up to 200 pounds. Now, modern taimen in the past, century obviously don't get that big. But they're said to be like the most aggressive, the most hard-fighting, crazy, like a tarpon of a salmonoid. And they're beautiful, they're aggressive, and you'll have these massive, like 20-pound fish in 12 feet or 12 inches of water.
Yeah.
It's like an extreme challenge not to spook them. You got to sneak up on them. And I think not just, hooking the fish and bringing them in, it would be an absolute blast in that shallow water. But also, I think just the chase and just getting that first eat, I think would be like an amazing experience. A certain challenge. I really like going after fish that are distant but attainable, so you really have that rewarding feeling like, I really worked hard for this, and here it is in my hands. I really love that feeling as an angler.
Well, you have a long time ahead of you to do all of this, which is really, really cool that you started so young, and you're sticking with it. I mean, that's not many people, I think, are like you in that way. So, is there anything else people should know about Kasper?
Well, I think I'd like to mention, I guess, I'm also a relatively avid hunter. I love deer hunting. I'm hopefully going to get into some more turkey hunting this spring with one of my buddies. I love squirrel hunting. I love rabbit hunting. But, that sort of ties into fishing is, really, I love the thrill of chasing beautiful wildlife and really appreciating the challenge and the hard work that goes into it. And, a lot of people don't understand the thrill of, catching a fish or shooting a deer or anything like that. They think it's maybe, cruel or just boring. But I guess I really would like to educate people, or not necessarily educate people, but, let them get an understanding that, it's this fishing, it's a hobby for some people. Fishing and hunting is a hobby for some people, but for a lot of people, it is a complete lifestyle. And, I think I would classify myself as one of those people where my life really, it sounds crazy, but my life really revolves around, fishing and hunting and chasing those distant yet attainable trophies that, God has put on this earth for us.
It's not so weird. I'm talking to you because that's what I do for a living. So,
yeah,
right.
That's
right.
The dream.
That's right. It's the dream. We're living the dream. So, all right. How do people find? I want to make sure that, now that people are going to know you, and I want you to let people know how to find you on social media so we can watch your journey.
So I have a fishing Instagram account. my username is Kasper.fishes. In case anyone's wondering, Kasper is spelled with a K, so it's Kasper fishes. And then my YouTube channel is the same thing, just without the period. It might be hard to find now because, I'm not very big, but a couple months here, hopefully you pop up Kasper Fishes and, it's going to be front and center. At least that's the hope. So I don't post all my fish on Instagram because I catch too many of them, but I love to post the big ones and the memorable ones. Or, if I had a particular fun fight or fun eat with that fish and it sort of stuck around in my memory, even if it's a 1 pound largemouth, I'll go ahead and post that too. So, I'm getting into Instagram Reels. I'm going to be putting out lots of tips and advice, especially around the DMV. I know it like the back of my hand. I'm going to be doing a lot of fishing around the DMV, a lot of tips, a lot of advice, sort of what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And then, I'm also going to just be putting out some fun stuff like me chasing giants, right?
Chasing giants. All right, so I have one more question for you, because in a couple years when I talk to you again, because we'll make this a yearly thing.
Of course.
What so far in your huge long lifespan what is your most memorable catch and why?
My most memorable catch? It's a very good question. I think I would say my first big largemouth for the DMV. We don't have the biggest largemouth around here, unfortunately. I mean, we have this massive tributary, the Potomac River. But, fishing lakes and ponds and stuff, we don't have the biggest, unfortunately, largemouth. But we have some, 8-pounders and stuff. I would say that my first ever sort of biggest or big classified largemouth was probably the most memorable for me, because this would have been almost a little over a year ago. I was fishing the tidal bays and I was fishing those pre-spawners, and I had gotten a lot of dozens. I've gotten dozens and dozens of 4-pounders. I've gotten 5-pounders. I've gotten 3-pounders, but they were all sort of spaced out, and I wouldn't say they were luck, but I would say that I would definitely account a lot of it for luck. I was sort of younger. I was sort of just messing around. But I would say my most memorable catch or weekend would have been a little over the year ago. I was fishing pre-spawn in the tidal basin, and I had just put the hammer on the nail, and I was probably catching a largemouth almost every cast around the tidal basin. And I probably caught 30 or 40 fish over the span of 2 days. And consecutively, I caught two largemouth, each of them weighing in exactly 5-9 pounds. Different fish, different lengths, each weighing 5-9 pounds. And I think holding both of them in my hands, one in one hand, one in the other hand, was sort of like holy shit, that's a lot of largemouth. And my entire sort of me being younger, messing around was, like I said, a lot of that I would attribute to luck. But here I am. I completely figured out how to catch these fish over these 2-day span. I've not accounting to luck. I trial and error over several hours, and I think that's my most memorable catch, because that's my first time really as a young person really figuring out
it clicked.
Fishing is not luck,
Right. You figured it out and you won the prize.
Yeah, and now I've just now I have so many hours and so much experience that I do that everywhere I go. I really figure these fish out, and I'm just tearing them up, and I all attribute that to that one weekend where where it was sort of like a milestone in my life. I really just did that.
That's awesome. Well, I want to say good luck in all your future endeavors and your casts. And we will definitely speak again in the next coming years so we can talk about what more catches you have made. And maybe you and I will go up to the Arctic so we can go Arctic char fishing. But I'm not jumping in. I'll watch you do it though. And then we can put it on YouTube.
That would be fantastic.
All right. Thanks for talking with me. And we will definitely talk in the next, in the next seasons and stuff like that. Yeah, hold me to that. Exactly.